Awesome. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, and thanks for the kind words. I've also got some slides that I'm going to share now. Can I switch over, take over the
Yes, please,
presentation?
please.
Yeah, great. Awesome. Thank you. All right. Can you all see my slides full screen? I see nodding. Awesome. Thank you very much. And I'm going to have some audio later, so please give me a shout if you can't hear the audio. It will be the first time. So thanks very much for having me. Thanks for organizing this event. Thanks everybody who's attending. It's great to see so many people. And it's great that the community really embraces this topic and wants to further it, which I'm really excited about. So I really appreciate it of the people organizing and the people attending.
Sorry for interrupting. I think the screen is in the presenter mode, not in the full
I did
screen.
switch over. Yeah. Give me one second. Just 1 second. How is this now? Is this better? Beautiful.
All good. Great.
Thank you very much. Yes, so my name is Floyd Mueller. My full name is Florian, but please call me Floyd. Everybody does except my mother. So let's keep it that way. I direct the Exertion Games Lab at Monash University in Melbourne, Australia. If you're not Monash, we are a top 100 university and are really increasing our ramp up in HCI and being in the top 10 HCI labs. Top 10 departments in the world, not just individual labs, but an entire department of HCI, which is fantastic to see. So what we're trying to do in the Exertion Games Lab is we want to experiencing our bodies as play, right? And we're working with the realization that we used to play with digital content. So what we have is we have a computer, we have a user or player, and in the middle we had this interface, mouse and keyboard. But what we had since then is that we are playing with the digital using our bodies. So in particular, since the Kinect and the Wii, we've got a user and we've got digital content, and the kind of interface in the middle disappeared. But there's still a physical and conceptual separation between the user and the digital content. So what we really want instead is we want to experiencing our bodies as digital play, where the human body and the digital content meaningfully integrate with one another. So what we are after here is now is an integration between the digital and the human body. And for that, we've written with a lot of other people here who are going to be, who have and going to be talking today, written this article, Next Steps in Human-Computer Integration. But I thought in this talk, I want to go actually a little bit deeper and talk about bodily ownership as one important aspect to it. And that's our most recent work, again, done with the help of a lot of the other speakers today. So this is very much about what if I want to design some of these integration systems? How can I get help? And we hope this article is actually help for you to do that. So first thing I want to argue is today that bodily ownership is very important, and we need to think about that. And the other people already alluded to that a bit. Here I want to go a bit further and say that we can put that on a dimension. By that I mean there is, on the one hand, I can say like, this is my body. It's quite clear. This is my body. You can ask a 5-year-old, they will say, this is my body, in contrast to the other things, such as this standing desk, this wall, this lamp, and so forth. A 5-year-old can articulate that. However, it's not so black and white, it turns out, because you might have already heard about the rubber hand illusion is one example, where it's not quite clear what's your body and what is not. The rubber hand illusion is you put your hand into this, we basically put a cloth on over it, and then there is a rubber hand together with your hand. And you see the rubber hand, not your own hand. And then the experimenter takes a small brush and basically strokes your hand and the rubber hand. And very quickly, you actually think the rubber hand is yours. And that goes back to the dimension I just talked about, highlighting that it's not so black and white. And we can actually, through smart design, we can actually target and hit that kind of sweet spot in between and move our experiences along this dimension in between what's my body and what's not my body. And I'm going to show you a couple of examples that kind of exploit that fact. But it's not just about ownership. The other thing we need to consider is bodily agency. And that is very much about who is in control. You can have a high sense of bodily agency or a low sense of bodily agency. And you usually use the word, I did that, or I didn't do that in everyday language when it comes to agency. For example, if I go into a dark room at night and I switch on the light switch and the light comes on, and I would say, I did that, right? If I go in another room and switch the light on and then 3 seconds later, the light comes on, I might go, oh, that was a bit weird. There was a weird delay, but I would still say, I did that. I turned the light on. If I go in another room, switch the light there on, and then an hour later, the light comes on, I might go, this is a weird kind of system. Some system error must have caused the light to switch on. I wouldn't really say I did that anymore. And that is really important because we have a strong desire to be in control, right? So if you if you live in a city, and most cities today, you know these pedestrian lights where you press the button and the pedestrian light comes on and turns green. They are in most cities actually not connected anymore because they're all centrally controlled. But when they took initially these buttons off, they realized people don't have a sense of control anymore. And then they actually crossed the traffic lights at red. So they put the buttons back on, disconnected them. So, but you press the button, you have a feeling of control, and therefore people are more likely to actually wait to cross the traffic lights. So this sense of agency is really important. You have to have a sense of being in control. And what we can do now is we can actually put them in a 2x2 design space. And then we have 4 quadrants that allow us to design for really unique, different experiences. I'm going to show you a couple of examples now, then use the design space to explain what these experiences are like and what actually happens when you use some of these systems. First example I want to show you is INA, the e-bike. It's an e-bike because we actually believe that the future of mobility is not the autonomous car, but rather electric bikes. And what we've done there is we've taken the engine and connected that to your brain with a brain-computer interface, because we know that the engine should support you the most when you're in a relaxed state, such as when going through the countryside, and because then you can go faster. However, if you're in the city and it's very busy and there might be a car steering in front of you, you get stressed out, and we can sense that with your brain activity, and therefore the engine shouldn't support you, so you slow down, and that gives you more time to hit the brakes when you need them. And we were lucky enough that our national TV station got a hold of that, and then they did a news segment on that. I'm going to show you that before we go to the design space, and I use that to explain the user experience.
New bike that reads the cyclist's mind could mean a much safer journey. It scans the rider's brain, detecting danger signals and automatically slowing the bike down.
A cap that does the thinking for you. This technology could change the way we ride our bikes. Researchers at Monash University have invented an electric bicycle which they claim can read the mind of the cyclist and detect when the rider is in danger.
We developed an EEG connected e-bike that senses your brain activity while you cycle and connects that to the e-bike's engine.
An electrode cap scans the cyclist's brain to detect the rider's field of view. If the rider's peripheral vision narrows, focusing on perceived danger like a car or pedestrian, the bike slows down.
As soon as there is an obstacle on the road, that signal is sent directly to the electric bike to slow down the acceleration.
With this bike in particular, we're looking at the back of the brain, which is where most vision is being processed.
The data is stored in a laptop carried in a backpack.
By reading the rider's mind and adjusting the bike's power, the cyclist feels more alert and in control, and that means a much safer ride.
You might enter a dangerous situation. You can feel confident that the bike will respond to that even if you fail to do so.
This prototype has been 12 months in the making. The real thing could be on the streets within 2 years. Tom Chadwick, 7 News.
So this is our e-bike. Did you hear all the sound okay? Just checking. There will be more videos. Awesome, great. So here with the really nice news report, simplified some of the user experience, of course, but in the design space, if you look there, we can actually understand that much better what's happening. Because we can look at these quadrants, and I just want to highlight two of them here, right? So on the one hand, we've got this upper right-hand quadrant, and that's what we call the super body. This is where you feel like a superhuman. This is how our participants felt after a while, because they were able to do things that they couldn't do without the system, right? Such as being so quick in reacting. But however, in the beginning, they had to learn about that. And that's where they felt much more like a chauffeured body, where the bike was acting on their behalf. And so this is similar to being in an autonomous vehicle, where it just drives you around and you don't feel much of control. And it's also separated from your body. Another example to explain it a bit further, I use this Balance Ninja. This is a playful investigation into what we've seen earlier, when you can stimulate and apply a small current behind your ear in order to affect your balance. And we use that by sharing that sense of balance to induce a sense of vertigo in two players in order to have a fun experience about balancing each other.
Vertigo has been described in game design as games that attempt to momentarily destroy the stability of perception and inflict a kind of voluptuous panic, or pleasurable panic, upon an otherwise lucid mind. So, for example, vertigo games could include simply spinning in circles, skiing, racing fast cars, and even rock climbing. With our work, we investigate how we can design digital vertigo games by taking advantage of the digital technology now available to us. To investigate this, we built Balance Ninja. Balance Ninja is a two-player balance game where players directly affect the balance of their opposing player. Firstly, players stand on a balance board and move their upper body to the left and to the right, and we measure this lean with a mobile device. Secondly, through using a technology called Galvanic Vestibular Stimulation, or GVS for short, the game directly affects a player's sense of balance. With GVS, a small current of around 1.5 milliamps is applied to electrodes attached behind players' ears. The resultant effect is that the player's sense of balance is affected in the direction of the positive electrode, causing them to lean in that direction. So basically, when one person leans to the right, the GVS of the opposing player triggers in that same direction, which makes the other player lean and attempt to compensate. The object and challenge of Balance Ninja is to cause the opposing player to touch their board to the floor, whilst trying to remain balanced themselves.
So here, just fast forward directly to the design space to highlight that we already talked about these two quadrants. I want to talk about this lower right quadrant, which is a feeling of a possessed body, right? So in the beginning, you have kind of like the super body because you can control the balancing of the other player, but once the other player tries to control you, you already have, all of a sudden have this feeling of a possessed body. It's still obviously your body, you have a high sense of ownership, but you actually lose your bodily agency. And with that game, we have shown that this can actually be quite playful and engaging. It doesn't necessarily always have to be a bad side effect. And on the opposite end of this diagonal sits a telebody. An example for that is if I control a robot in a disaster zone remotely. That would be a telebody experience. We have a low sense of bodily ownership, but a high sense of bodily agency. But I find the other quadrants actually a bit more interesting, so I'm going to talk about them a bit more with more examples, such as Inside Out. Inside Out is a system where participants swallow a tiny camera in the form of a pill in order to get to see inside their body. And Patty Mays already mentioned the inside of the body. Here we actually allow you to become more aware of the inside of your body and engage with the inside of your body, because we know if you have a higher awareness and more knowledge about your body, you actually look after it more. And this is Inside Out.
Imaging capsules are medical devices that allow us to see our interior body. However, patients often experience anxiety when swallowing medical devices. To address this, we utilized game design thinking and posed the question, what if we combine imaging capsules with digital play? We present Inside Out. Players swallow an imaging capsule and the video is displayed outside their body to be shared and interacted with. Inside Out features 3 types of games that let players explore how their interior body responds to bodily actions, such as eating, drinking, or being physically active. Other types of games let players experience the relationship between their environment and the interior body in an artistic way, or let players perform bodily movements to engage with their interior body.
By taking the imaging pill, I actively got to explore my internal organs. I think it's that sort of body awareness goes a long way to helping you with body health when you can see it in that way, and it's amazing.
With Inside Out, we highlight the potential of using imaging capsules to facilitate intriguing bodily play experiences. Such experiences might deepen our understanding of the human body and ultimately contribute towards a more playful and humanized healthcare agenda.
So this is Inside Out, and if we look at the design space, we can see how on the one hand, before you take the pill, just before you put it onto your tongue, it's not quite part of your body yet, and therefore it's probably more on the left-hand side, and you don't really have much agency. So you start at the lower left, but you move to the upper right by experiencing your body, eating different things, moving around. You get to know your body, and therefore you experience a super body because the inside of your body is now part of your experience. But we didn't want to stop there, and so Armadyne is a system where we actually used a third robotic arm and use that to see whether we can actually enrich the eating experience, especially those eating experiences where you stand around like at a conference in the past when we had physical conferences and had a snack together. So this is Armadyne.
There is an increasing trend in human-computer interaction that concerns the intersection between technology and food. However, so far, most of it is focused on the preparation or presentation of food, but not so much on the actual eating process. To explore this, we have created Armadyne. Armadyne is a social augmented eating system consisting of wearable robotic arms behaving as our third arm that is controlled by the affective responses of the eating partner in the following way. If the third arm senses positive facial expressions of the co-diner, it feeds the food to the co-diner. If the third arm senses negative facial expressions of the co-diner, then it feeds the food to the diner. If the third arm does not sense either positive or negative facial expression, then it makes a confusing movement in the air, leaving the diners to guess its movement. It then makes an unpredictable decision, either feeding to the diner or to the co-diner, allowing them to eat in a playful and social manner.
It's a nice change from just sitting down and shoving food in your face. Like normally we just look at our mobile phones and maybe talk a little bit, but this one was kind of full interaction with the person.
I think it's especially suitable for like party games. I think it will help to make new friends.
We hope that our work inspires new ways of augmenting eating processes, ultimately contributing to our understanding of human-food interaction.
So armidine, you can probably see how this becomes overuse a part of your body, the system, and therefore it's on the right-hand side. But again, it also moves now in a trajectory where at some point you have control over the arm, and at some point your co-diner has control via the camera and the affective response. And that moving back and forth actually makes for the interesting, engaging experience. So you're not just designed for one spot, you're designed for a journey through that design spot, through the design space. And this is similar to SciNet, our work where we looked into how people who live together, like three housemates, they often get their brains in sync. And if your brain isn't, this is a very unique social experience. When your brains are in sync, you actually feel like you're sharing your brains and you feel like a coherent group and really work well together. And so we thought, what if we equip them with brain-computer interfaces that not only sense your brain activity, but also actuate them? Meaning that if one of them is in a very mindful, relaxed state, and we find an opportune moment, then we actually stimulate the brains of the other people in the household in the exact area that's responsible for a mindful or relaxed state. If a person is very active, then we stimulate the areas responsible for activity in the other participants. We found out that even after 3 days, they can already have an enhanced sense of sharing their brain and a sense of being a more social cohesive mind group, mind sharing group. I'll show you a video.
Interbrain synchrony describes how brains tend to synchronize when people interact. This synchrony enables empathy, coordination, communication, and deep personal relationships. Many of today's social technologies ironically isolate us from each other. We believe with the right technology, we can be closer. We present SciNet, a novel system we have designed to amplify interbrain synchrony. SciNet uses brain-to-brain interfacing and artificial intelligence to sense brain activity in groups of people and stimulates their brains in response to be more synchronous. Participants wearing SciNet can go about their day while the system monitors and stimulates all group members to increase synchrony. This works even when participants are apart. Through studying how people use SciNet in their homes, we found that SciNet can help people feel part of a whole, with greater awareness of others in the group, while also learning about their group through experimenting with the system. We intend that our work gives guidance towards a technological future of empathy and unity.
So here with SciNet, you can again see how it's a journey through that, where at some point you have a high sense of agency, a feeling of control, but then you give away that control to your housemates in order to get a higher shared brain sense. So again, it's a journey through the design space. I want to finish up with one last project, mostly because I think it's really funny. It's an ice cream that makes sound.
Eating together is fun, and so is eating ice cream. We believe that interactive technology can enrich these two aspects together, paving a new field we call interactive eating. We present We Scream, a playful social gustosonic system, which consists of two wireless ice cream cones that allow users to interact with musical sounds generated through eating ice cream together. Our system supports coordinating eating experiences through composing musical melodies together. In a study, We Scream participants reported an increased awareness of their relatedness as a result of coordinating their eating actions in order to compose ice cream sounds together.
Eating was like playing a game, and it made me pay more attention to how I was eating, and it involves more connection with the other person when eating together.
You can come up with different musical notes, which was really exciting. That's what's really dynamic about it. When you lick this for the first time, it makes you feel like you were a kid again, and that's really nice.
Ultimately, with We Scream, we want to challenge our thinking of how the future of food looks and sounds like.
So this is We Scream. Together, I hopefully enticed you to really think more about how to design bodily integration systems. And for that, I've shown you a framework of using agency and ownership in order to facilitate designing for it. And with that, I thank you very much for your attention. My name is Floyd Mueller from the Exertion Games Lab. I should also mention that if you're interested in the topic, we're actually currently seeking PhDs and postdocs to work more on this integration. Thanks again for everybody at the AH Lab to organizing it, and thank you very much.